Hey everybody, it's Brooke with The Buttered Home. Welcome to Messy Kitchen Monday. We are so glad you're joining us. Y'all, can you believe it? February is almost over. There's one more Monday. And speaking of that, we won't be here Monday night, but we will be with a very special Tuesday edition of Messy Kitchen Monday on a Tuesday next week on the 26th. But I'll be sure and remind everybody when it gets closer to time. So tonight we are going to continue with the February sweets. I know Thanksgiving Day is over. It's the second season. Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is over and it's now the second season of everybody going on a diet and all that good stuff. But, you know, if you've got a family reunion coming up or if you want to do something really sweet for the people that you work with, you know, these ideas are great ideas to have in your pocket. So we're going to finish out February strong with two really great sweet recipes. The one tonight is a favorite of mine, and it has been since I was a little girl, and it's Coca-Cola cake. And y'all, this is so easy. There's all kind of recipes out there for Coca-Cola cake with a cake mix, and you know, I'm not above using a cake mix, hence the red velvet cookies, but I like using cake mixes in odd ways. So tonight we're gonna make a scratch-made Coca-Cola cake. And y'all, it's just easy. There's no other way to put it, but it's so easy. So this recipe will be up on the website later this week. And hang on, you know, it's dog circus at the Buttered Home. So one barks, we all bark. But anyway, we're gonna get started because we have a good bit to cover. This cake is soft and gooey and yummy, is fantastic. And it is, like I said, it's just super simple. So I'm gonna move my camera so you can see what I got going on. And in here I have my dry ingredients. My dry ingredients consist of flour, sugar, salt, baking soda, and cinnamon. Yes, you will not taste the cinnamon in the Coca-Cola cake, but it's in there and it just adds something to the chocolate. So we're gonna mix that all together. And you know, this is my poor man's sifter. And we're gonna make sure that that cinnamon gets well incorporated, as well as the baking soda and the sugar into the flour. And you're gonna cook this cake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Now, I have a pan that I'm trying out for a friend of mine, and I'll show it to y'all. It's a great pan. Real excited. And this is it, y'all. Is that not the prettiest thing? Isn't that pretty? And you'll see on the bottom what the cakes, the small little cakes are made of. So, of course, you know me, I made half the recipe already, and I used these just to kind of test out the pan. So, Auburn, if you're watching, give me a shout out. This pan is fabulous. It makes the prettiest little cakes. They're going to be great, trust me. So, I've got my dry ingredients all sifted together. And if you're just joining us, we're making Coca-Cola cake the good, long, scratch-made, old-fashioned way. And this is our dry ingredients. This is flour, sugar, salt, baking soda, and cinnamon. And we've got our oven preheated to 350 degrees. And I'm just kind of sifting those in there together that way that everything can get well incorporated with one another. Now I'm going to move my camera, so y'all just bear with me, because you know I gotta get it situated just right. All right, I think we're good. And in here, these are gonna be our first set of wet ingredients. And in here I have butter, cocoa, and I'm about to add the Coca-Cola. So the Coca-Cola, I'm using Coke Zero, simply because there's already like 2 cups of sugar in the cake, and the icing is a Grenache icing, and so it's nothing but sugar. So if I can cut out some sugar, I want to do that. So I'm going to do that here with a Coke Zero. And we're going to put that in there, as well as buttermilk. I know, Coke and buttermilk. I know y'all are thinking, what? But I promise you, it makes this creamy and tangy, and it kind of cuts the sweet a little bit. So yes, for our wet ingredients, we are going to turn on the heat. And then if I can find my sifter, we're gonna mix these together and just kind of bring it to what I call a soft boil. And of course, I'm gonna make a huge mess. And then this is what we'll add to our dry ingredients. Once we get everything incorporated, this mixture incorporated into our dry ingredients, it will kind of cool this off down, and then we'll add our eggs and our vanilla. Now you want to make sure anytime you're working or making a cake where you have a hot component that you let it cool. This recipe recommends about 5 minutes, but I found, because I'm always in a hurry, that if you add it in and stir it slowly to your dry ingredients, add your vanilla first, then that tends to kind of cool it off. And when I made the other batch earlier, it cooled it off just to kind of like room temperature, so it was perfect. And then I added my eggs, and they kind of tempered themselves. But if not, you can always add a little bit of this warmer liquid, just a tiny bit, to your eggs and mix it in so that it tempers the eggs, so that you won't have scrambled eggs in your cake. All right. So we are all melted, so we just want to bring this mixture up to a soft boil, which should happen pretty quickly if I turn my heat up. And a soft boil, if you're not sure what that is, it's when it just starts to bubble, just kind of right around the edges. And with this mixture, with the buttermilk being in here, you'll be able to tell because it's almost going to lift in volume. And I'll move the camera in a little closer so you can see what I'm talking about. You see it's starting to bubble, and then we're just going to keep mixing it because we don't want it to burn. And you'll see what I'm talking about. The soft boil, it's going to start to kind of rise. If you'll notice, it's coming out from the outside and pushing it toward the middle, and it's starting to grow a little bit. So we get that soft boil going, and we let it soft boil for about 30 seconds. And it's almost doubled in volume. And that's the combination of the Coca-Cola and the buttermilk. Everything is like a chemistry. Don't ask me what it means, but it happens. All right, so I'm gonna move this over to my dry, and then I will move the camera back. And that'll give that a little chance to cool.
I think Polly also just made her first messy kitchen appearance.
Oh, did she? Good. All right, so now I have my dry ingredients, and then I have the wet. And you'll notice that it's calmed down a little bit. It's still kind of hot, but we're gonna add it in slowly. Oh, and Mary, I have lots of old pans, honey. Pans and clothes, I just don't give up on them that easily. All right, so now I've got the wet in with the dry. And we're just going to slowly kind of mix that in. And this is going to combine with the sugar and the flour, the baking soda and the salt and the cinnamon. It almost looks like and smells like a brownie mix. That's right, Kristen. If I'm not making a mess, I'm not really cooking. That's the truth. That's why we call it Messy Kitchen Monday, baby. All right, so now I'm just gonna take this, and just because I wanna make sure that I don't boil my eggs right here on live and just kind of test it. And sure enough, it felt no change on my skin. So it's not too hot, but just to ensure that, I'm gonna add in a half, or well, the measurements are a little different, but I'm gonna add in my vanilla, because the measurements for the full cake I'll have on the blog post tomorrow. We're just gonna cool that off just a little bit with that vanilla. And then I've got an egg, because this is half the recipe, and I'm just gonna beat it just a little bit and add it in. Add that egg in. And that loosens it up a lot. And then I've got my pan, and this time I'm gonna cook it in my cast iron pan, just because this is half the recipe. Tanner's sitting here waiting on the bowl. But see, I'll tell you who the smartest person in the house is, and that's Big D, because he knows that he's going to wait on the next pan that I'm about to have, and that is for the icing. Isn't that right, baby? All right, so I've got that in my pan. And like I said, this is only half the mixture. So I'm going to just kind of wiggle it, tap it, and then put it in my 350-degree oven. For the whole recipe, it takes about 30 minutes. No lie, because this is a moist, beautiful, wonderful cake. Now, I know you're tired of me moving you, but I'm going to move you one more time, because we're going to go ahead and we're going to make the icing. So the icing is mostly confectioner's sugar. Surprise, right? So, you know, I've got my secondary sifter here, and I'm just kind of sifting through my confectioner's sugar. And I'm going to move you again. So we're going to move over here. And then I have my second boiler, which has the basics of the icing. And the icing recipe is also included, and it's butter, cocoa, where's my Coca-Cola? And then Coke, again. So you're gonna add in that Coke, no buttermilk this time, and it's just a little bit less of all those things. And then we are going to turn our heat on. Get our whisk and do virtually the same thing with the icing. You want to make sure that that cocoa gets all good and mixed in. This is like chocolate on top of chocolate. And that's what makes it really, really good. Yes, you grease it the same as you do with any other pan if you're making any kind of sweets or baked goods in it. Of course, mine stays greased because when it's clean, we actually dry it really well and then put a light spray and a canola oil on it and just kind of wipe it off. So if you have a good seasoned cast iron pan, it's going to stay greased anyway. But when you're baking something like a cake or anything like that in it, you certainly want to add just a little bit more so that your cake will let go. Alright, got the butter melted. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to bring it up just to a little soft boil. Just because we want to cook that cocoa. let that sit and grab my sugar and have it ready. And now because it doesn't have the buttermilk, it's not going to grow as much as the wet ingredients did for the cake. But you'll see it's starting to kind of boil around the edges. And this is almost just like making a roux. You know, you want to boil just a little bit of that floury cocoa bland taste out. And but not overcook it, of course, because you'll burn it. So it's the same principle here as it is when you're making a roux. All right, so that looks good to me. Now I'm going to remove it from the heat, and then I got a whole big ton of confectioner's sugar. I'm going to add a little bit at a time. And whenever you, and just like with flour on a regular cake, when you add it in batches, you know, that ensures that you have a smooth icing. Get that incorporated well in there. So I just added it in 2 batches. And that confectioner's sugar just kind of melts away. And I'm just scraping the pan really well. Make sure I get all the lumps out. And as it cools, it starts to thicken. So you want to let it cool slightly. All the time whisking it. That helps cool it a little faster, as well as get any grit and bits of the confectioner sugar out. And then you see it has this beautiful sheen. And I'm going to move you over here because I have one. And let me get my camera adjusted where you can see it. I got one of these ready. And I'm just going to drizzle. And you'll notice I got wax paper underneath my rack. I'm messy, but I'm not that messy. I am getting it on my tripod. Yay! It is all over the foot of my tripod. All right, so we've glazed that and we'll let it sit for about 30 minutes to an hour. I'm gonna move you back and I'm gonna show you the finished product. I'll get it. There it is. That beautiful little Coca-Cola cake. And I'm just gonna cut into it because first of all, I want you to see the crunch of the icing. I mean, it's perfect. And then the inside of that cake is just moist and beautiful and delicious. And in 30, 40 minutes, you have a beautiful chocolate on chocolate cake. So, hold on. How is it, Reagan? She can't even talk. So, our big cake will be ready in a few minutes. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to share this one with everybody. So, make sure your daddy gets some, everything. So, that's Coca-Cola cake. I mean, you just can't get any simpler. And it's scratch made, no cake mix. And probably, if you're like me, you have everything in your kitchen already that you can do this with. So I challenge you, and I'll post on the page later the actual recipe. It's going to be on the blog. And I got some really pretty pictures of it. Sorry, I'm cleaning my tripod. But anyway, this cake is a favorite. I take it to family reunions, all kind of places, and it's fabulous. So I challenge you, even if you're on the diet train, give this cake a try, even if you just cut a little piece of it. But the recipe that I have is the full recipe, and it's usually done in a 9x13 casserole pan so that you can cut big squares of it. Now, you can split it like I did and do part of it in a round pan or in some of these small little cake pans. Either way, it's good. if you do split it and do it in a smaller vessel, you're gonna wanna lower your cook time. So if you have any questions, just shoot me a private message. Let me know, I'll be glad to help you. And be sure to be here next Tuesday night. I have a huge surprise in store for Messy Kitchen Monday on a Tuesday. We'll have a special guest. He will not be talking, but he will be cooking. And it will be a recipe that several people have asked for and that we will deliver on next week. So we hope that you all have a fantastic week. Make you some Coca-Cola cake. It can make any day, especially with all this rain, a little brighter. And from the buttered home to your home, we love you. Bye.